Okay, I think I'm back on. Just 1 second. I'm not entirely sure if I've got this set right. I should be back on. Let me see. Right. I have tried setting the thing lower, but I'm not sure what the quality is going to look like. It's basically just a test to see what it looks like. So if it looks terrible, do let me know, please, so I can tell. I mean, because the only thing I can see obviously is the game itself. And I can't load up the stream on my thing at the same time, or else it'll just drag the quality down on it because of it'll be taking up bandwidth basically. So if the quality is really bad, let me know, and I'll try to tweak it some more. So, let me think. Let me see. Of course. Okay, so the microphone had disabled itself. Let me just double check something. Yeah. So, if the quality's solid or drop down, then I can have another guiding about fixing to sort out if it's not already sorted out for us. In fact, I'll be 1 second. I'm just stuffing. Okay, yeah, I was just muted for a moment, I was just sorting some out. Just double checking everything's on. I was muted, it was the thing, it disables my microphone every time I go into it. So is the quality, is the lag on, or is it, how's Steam doing so far? Is it good, or do I need to tweak it some more? That's Morrowind, from what I could tell, yeah, this. Well, that would just be odd, I guess. Maybe it's just the Xbox itself, maybe, because maybe it's because of Morrowind game, the graphics and all that not being as heavy. But more I don't know. Not my fault, unfortunately. Cocked up. I'm gonna have to reload. Oh dear. Just deleted the entire building. It's, yeah, I think it might be just that it's more graphic intensive. It certainly seems to be the case anyway. So, like I say, it's it really should be lagging. Like I say, my internet's terrible. I've got no else for internet. Obviously me. Maybe me. I might not be the only person using the internet in the house, but there's nobody using no internet. As far as I'm aware, anyway. I might be wrong. If it used to be a laggy, then I'll go and see if there's anybody down. Maybe that might be as well. I'll just do this all again. I accidentally deleted the in.
Hey, boy.
So doesn't.
You want to come?
It doesn't stop you from deleting, unfortunately, or roads, so anything else you don't want to. Okay, where's the... Yeah, it's like I say, that's unfortunately it's Sony's fault that they're too hard-headed. Then again, that's Sony through and through, really. And the Xbox has the kind of the bonus of being kind of based on the PC kind of setup, but do actually allow some application on the PC, that there's the capability there. They're just pig-headed, if you will, who have their yeah, I prefer the... I mean, I think in my... No, I don't. I do have... It does have the version of the 10mm as well. Yeah, the from Fallout 3 is Creation Club. Terrifyingly bad. You'd have thought they'd have learnt after like horse armour or something, you know, that people don't want daft stuff, you know, just let people make the mods, you know. Be too heavy. things all nice and smoothly. And then Bethesda was like, "No, we've got to let's do things way." Except that seems with the Sony thing. That's their case as well. Is they think they know best. In some instances, they do, but in this instance, clearly very, very wrong. But unfortunately, they won't learn. Force them. Yeah, I have Fallouts on PC as well. I have them on Steam. But like I was mentioning with Morrowind the other day, with the PC, obviously it's keyboard and mouse. I mean, obviously you can plug a controller. Most games built with PC with keyboard and mouse in mind, and my arthritis is very, very painful. I can only play for half an hour before I'm off, unfortunately, on the PC. Rolls, they fit my hand nicer. Doesn't cause pain. One moment, I'm just gonna have to mute my mic. I do apologise that someone was apparently wanted to speak about it. Yes, it's a bit weird. I mean, in theory, it should be quite the little gadget, should the Steam controller, because you can play keys without even having the support for joypad, but just doesn't work in practice from what I've seen. One of those the case worked, it perhaps didn't work in real life sort of stuff. But yeah, I very much prefer consoles because of the control setup, and it's quite much easier to just set up, you just put it in and away you go sort of thing most of the time. Although with the more current consoles, the with the installs and all this, is starting to get more and more like a PC. Unfortunate. The trackpad sucks. Yeah, that's what I remember. I've forgotten where it was. I saw now. But yeah, that was the gist that someday I had seen the same thing. Is that the trackpad's no good. I think the main selling point for me, like I say, is the this curse with PCs is that I'll sit down to do one thing with the PC will go wrong. Everything will want to update all at once. Everything will stop working all at once, and when I finally get around to playing whatever it is I intended to play, I ain't got the date anymore. I generally try to avoid PC gaming like the plague, which is unfortunate because I don't know if you know of them, the grand strategy games, Crusader Kings, Europa Universalis, Stellaris, that sort of thing. Those are my those are the games I like playing on PC. Shit, you can't really play those with a controller. Those are very mouse. I mean, handle mouse. That's generally handleable. It's the keyboard side of things. Too many things can go. Yeah, that is it. Too many things can go wrong. with a console, if it starts going wrong, I just get on phone to and say, look, stuff's not working. Or fix it yourself if it's a simple thing. You like RTS better than the strategy games. Yeah. I think my brother likes just ordinary RTS. He doesn't like. And he's got them, I think. The grand strategy games that I've got, but he don't play them. Company Heroes. I haven't played Company Heroes. I was watching a guy play the other day. It seemed like an interesting sort of game. There's a Twitch. He's a YouTuber. He does videos to do with history. Company Heroes. I think it was a week. I know he's played it. Replays. That's usually that's the only time I ever see RTSs is when I watch it on Twitch or what have you. The mention keyboard and mouse distinct. Yeah, Total Wars. It is one of those games like that. Well, I'm terrible at just any sort of strategy game. I play. It's like I remember the Age of Empires 2. I played it because it got it so it was on a USB stick instead of a CD, and that it could run it from the USB stick. So we were able to get it to work at school, and so I'd play it, and then I'd get annihilated by AI on easy difficulty, which was a surefire sign to me that I am no good at RTSs. Yeah, Falls and Fold. It's like you mentioned with Total War, like about them is just pit these big armies against others, you know, and as it plays out, see how things roll. Yeah, my mate was at the techie, my mate, computers. So when it came to needing help with computer, he was the one who built his own computers, you know, he'd fix them and all that kind of stuff. So he kind of knew how to work all that kind of jazz. Yeah, like I said, this basically could run off the USB, so we could get around school firewall. Because I started getting wise to him. He was in like a browser, so he could go on and watch like videos and whatever. Because I'd go on chat programs more often than not. So they started blocking and stuff, and like I say, that's how by using this USB stick. Oh yeah, Battlefield 1942. Was it Battlefield 1942 that was on the Xbox 360 as well? The one that they brought out on Xbox Live? Because if that is it, that I think well myself. And I loved the sound effect. Because at the played Call of Duty, funnily enough. Back when it was kind of the in thing. Not because it was cool, I just played it because I liked first person shooters, you know. But when I played Battlefield 1942, it is that one. Xbox Live, because I'd played Call of Duty and all that stuff, and I'd seen friends online were mentioning that it's great and all that. I was like, oh, I'll give it a go. And I was just expecting it to be just like a Call of Duty and all that, but man, was that a blast, you know, we all played exactly the play, all that kind of, expecting all that kind of stuff. I was just expecting run and gun, and there you go, you got your planes and you got all this other setup and all this. But, yeah, dive bomber sound, yeah. So yeah, the sounds in that game, amazing. I was like listening to actual aircraft flying by, actual guns being fired. They had the echo sounds and everything. And like I said, Bad Company 2 I got. Oh, one of the bad ones I got shortly after it. And I was expecting a similar level, and they kind of had. I was kind of starting to think I was going to become a kind of a Battlefield kind of player and stuff at the time. But Battlefield 1, no, I don't have Battlefield 1, unfortunately. I'm planning on having a go at some point though, because saw a review, thought, hey, this isn't bad actually, you know, and the review positive of it. The reviewer in question is a guy on YouTube called Razorfist. I like his stuff. But he was saying that Battlefield 1, this is a guy who doesn't like person shooters, you know, or generally speaking, don't like them. And he was saying it was quite enjoyable. Maybe it's a return to form, you know, because I played Battlefield, it was 3, 4, and 4 was boring. I have never wanted to quit a game so much playing that recently. I think it was a couple of months ago. The first time I've ever played a game and just like wanted to. It's good, just not quite historical. Yeah, no, that was something he pointed out, is that it's not entirely historically correct and all that kind of stuff. It's kind of BF3 sucks. Yeah, that as well. It's kind of let down because, like I was mentioning, I kind of came from Battlefield Bad Company. And I quite enjoyed them. I thought they were quite good. I mean, they weren't quite the same as 1942, but Bad first Battlefield. Yeah, Battlefield 1, Bad Company 1 first. I can't remember actually, because it might have been that one where I ended up with the second one first and then got the first. But where I like to play this order of the like 1, 2, 3. And if it's like I don't know, even if it's like a remaster of the first one comes, second of the first one. Yeah, but well, let it down. And I thought maybe it's just like a missed turn for him. No, Battlefield 4 came out and I was bored. It's the first where, because usually I like to I play the game through, get some, obviously the achievements, which I mean, I'm an achievement junkie or whatever you want to know. It's just something to do, you know. When you grab some challenge, and I noticed when I was first firing it up that it has something, you know, mentioned that one of the achievements was to see all the endings. I was like, oh, there's multiple endings. By the time I was finished up game where I couldn't care less. Which is the first time, because the first shooter that had that happen, like, I suppose, really. Oh no, like I say, it happened with Call of Duty. Kind of got Call of Duty because it just became same old. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was a point where I went through where I loved achievements for the game. I just challenged not because of like this increase the gamer score or anything. I mean, that's no wrong with that. We did that. We went what was it, Summit? It introduced me to that side doing this stuff. But I was just more of it, liked completing things, and I saw a cheap part completing a game, but I kind of fallen by the wayside because too many of them it's just finish it on this difficulty, finish it on that difficulty, and I was like, nah, I've done it once. No, I don't really story 4 if I can get the different difficulty achieved. So kind of ended up falling by the wayside as a thing that I did. I mean, it kind of Fallout's Oblivion, first one that got 1,000 on. Yeah, I don't actually think I ever got 1,000. Oh no, I did. I just before when they announced Skyrim was coming, decided I needed to get offer Oblivion because I felt it was shameful that I hadn't already. So that was something I cranked out. I was like, achievements in Oblivion, get it finished, because I'd never finished, I think it was, yeah, the Shivering Isles expansion. I never really got around to finishing proper. I mean, I'd done most of it, but I was like, no, I gotta get it done. Got it out just in case it becomes important to Skyrim. You know, you never know. Details are important, like Geob, like we noticed with Geob with Morrowind. If I hadn't played Morrowind, known who the hell what? They come along and they'd be like, oh, Saint Geob, and I'd be like, who's that, you know? So that was my reasoning for getting all the game done, because I wanted to know what was going to happen. Like that's kind of what's keeping me going for Elder Scrolls 6, is that I want to know what happened. You know, there's part of me that's getting a little skeptical. Something about Skyrim you just did. Yeah, a lot of people had that kind of feel. You know, there was something that just threw them off. I noticed a lot of people like they just couldn't quite put the finger on it in some instances. You know, it's like not quite what it is. Don't like it. I could understand that. It's starting to they're starting to depart on their own thing, which is a bit odd because they were kind of like the champions of RPGs for the longest time, and they've kind of stepped away from it. They've kind of relinquished, which is a bit odd. Seems though they were the only ones that aren't in it. So, I mean, I have to be honest. I enjoyed Skyrim, but if I mean, like I say, my first playthrough, but I mean, I have the occasional moment where I fire it back up and I play it for a bit longer. But on the where I've just slashed it today, or the main story anyway. I don't get this over so often. Finish off again. You know, it's done. I've finished the story. That's fun. I might watch a stream or two of it being, if it's like a run like this, like you're doing it with no healing or some magical nonsense. There's like to watch that does kind of challenge runs occasionally of stuff like the Bethesda stuff anyway. But he's not a fan of Elder Scrolls, so he doesn't usually do Elder Scrolls. He's a Fallout player. But like I say, that's the only reason I ever really pay attention to Skyrim much beyond, like I say, that it's an Elder Scrolls game. But I mean, I'm still holding out for Elder Scrolls 6 to be awesome. But I'm part cynical, part optimistic for Elder Scrolls 6, because there's part of me that's going to cut some out. Did it with Oblivion. Hell, Morrowind's missing stuff from in Daggerfall. There's like your own horse, like in Oblivion and all that. But there's you can buy a ship. I think you can buy properties. Majoring on Morrowind seems pretty hard. I'm not so. I don't know. I've done a major run in the past. Absolutely. It's been so long how difficult it was. I know that was the time when I was the trick to do with like stats, like to massive amounts, like to thousands, in the soul trap trick. And when I started messing about with that, high enough stats to do it all, but that was the playthrough that I never finished because I'd gotten out on Elder Scrolls at the time. That was my problem. That's why I stopped playing Morrowind originally. It does. It has a lot going on in Daggerfall. It's like I mean, I hadn't seen it in action, but I was a guy who mentioned that Razor Fist. He loves Daggerfall. Even there's a full-on legal system. Like when you get caught in like a Morrowind or Oblivion or Skyrim, that's it. You just pay your fine, you go to jail, or you fight back. That's your options. Or apparently you can like go to court over it and argue your case. Got an eye of speechcraft, you can got free with like, I don't know, murder or theft or whatever it is. And you've got a banking system. Took me forever to leave. That's a common. In fact, it's there was some mention about there was they did since the dungeon, like the release something or a guide or something after the putting. I don't know, I can't remember. So there is a court system. So I was right in that room. Like I say, I've never seen it in action. I've seen people play Daggerfall, but they've never kind of like go out of the way to kind of show off everything, or at least not the ones I've seen so far. So I've not seen the court system and all that. I did system. I saw that here, like gold actually weighs something in Daggerfall, so you have to leave it in the bank. You can't carry it in your person, and they give you a note of credit, and then you that credit worth money. You know, you go into a bar, I want 5,000 gold, and they give you 5,000 gold. And I was like, that's pretty cool. I wish they'd do that in current, because they'll make the excuse that, oh, you know, it's an archaic this, or we don't want a direction, or blah blah blah, whatever Bethesda. The feeling on that particular day, that's what they'll do. Because they're nothing if not shocked. Much as I love Bethesda and the games, they're third party stuff in this. Like what is it? Daggerfall. It's like a medieval simulator. It's funny you should mention that. I was actually watching an interview with the guy that on it. And it's called, oh, I forgot what it's called now. It's on a channel on YouTube called Indigo Gaming, where he interviewed the fella. And basically it was him and 3 other dudes were basically the team that worked on Daggerfall. And I was like, 4 people made Daggerfall? What mad is this? Saying that basically his idea was that he wanted to be kind of like stuff, you know, you know, and it's like he says Todd Howard's a good guy, you know, he likes the guy, but he was saying that he has a different approach for Elder Scrolls than what he would have done. It's like his idea with he wanted to do with Elder Scrolls 3 was to kind of go even more in depth. Yeah, that's what I believe so. Yeah, I believe he said 4. I might have misheard him. He's the problem I had was that I think he's Danish or something like that. I think it's something like that. He's got a very thick accent, so I was having trouble hearing some of the stuff he was saying. But I'm pretty sure he said there were only really 4 people working on Daggerfall. Really, it might have been 14. I'm not sure, but even so, I mean, it wasn't. I mean, you expect something like Daggerfall to have like, at the very least, 50 odd people. You know, and apparently it wasn't that big. It just works exactly. There's like I say, that guy that I like on Twitch. He likes to put up that video. This video of it's oh, what's these? Little Lies. Something like, I forgot what the title of the song was. Something about lies, sweet little lies, and it's basically just like clips of Todd Howard showing off like stuffing like Oblivion and Skyrim, and saying, oh, it just works and you can do this and all that, and then just showing stuff where it just does not do exactly what he says at all. And it's like I say, it's quite humorous. Like I say, I think the problem that they have is not that they don't know what they're doing, it's more a case of they've got a different idea of how they want to do it. You know, they have this. He wants to do a more. He wants to make a more. Yeah. He wants to make a more kind of RPG. You know, I think that's his shtick. Oblivion E3 gameplay. I think I ever saw gameplay trailer for Oblivion at E3. I think the only video I ever saw was the one where I can't remember the rest of it. It just where it's basically the opening scene from Oblivion itself, where it kind of zooms into the Imperial City. And I remember because I was like, "This looks amazing." They're like, "This is going to be in game," and I thought, "Oh, that's what the graphics going to look like." No, I should have known. Really, it's Bethesda after all. It's their modus operandi. You know, tell you it's in game, and really they mean it's a cutscene. Yeah, I think I've cleared this place out. So. Actually, while I'm doing this, shadows on the rib. I don't remember that. What were the shadows on the rib cage? Let's see. So need to craft it, I think. Craft it here. The guy who was originally there for Elder Scrolls, the one that wanted it to be more and more like a simulator, or as you put it, a medieval simulator, which is I think the same actually, funnily enough. He was saying that he thinks the problem is that Todd Howard, he wants to kind of do this kind of like story focused game, but he kind of wants to like direct the player through it, sort of thing. Which is, it's a direction, sure. It's just not the Elder Scrolls direction. You know, most people that play Elder Scrolls don't want to play it because they want to play through a story. You know, I mean, they want the story there, sure, but they want to be able to play just like this world. You know, just go into it and just do whatever. And it's not. You know, it's just you kind of. It's kind of, like I say, it's missing the point of their own series. Exactly, it's a sandbox. That is just drop you in a world and say, here's what's happening, deal with it how you want. You know, that was the idea with Elder Scrolls. That was pretty much what that the original developer guy was like. He says he wanted to have this simulator where you could go off and do what you chose to do. There's this story there, sure. But if you wanted to go off and be a merchant, go off and be a merchant. You want to be a pirate, go off and be a pirate. You want to be you want to go and be a king? Go off and form your own kingdom. That was what he wanted to do with the next one. He wanted to make it bigger than Daggerfall, and unfortunately, Todd Howard was the guy. He ended up guy in charge, and so no. But funnily enough, he hired him as a QA tester. Saying that when he joined, he was like, "Oh, I was all excited." And he was like, "Oh, it's an honour working and everything." He's like, I mean, Todd Howard obviously has a passion for his job. You know, he actually loves working on the games. It's that much as a parent. It's just he has a different view of how the game should be than the gamers that are playing it. It's a shame that Bethesda don't just spin off a separate studio and put him in charge and say, "Hey, the game you want to make, but while we go and make a proper Elder Scrolls," you know? Because then everybody would win, you know. But like I said, then they'd have to split the teams, and that'd. You know, then they'd have to some sort of, I don't know, I don't even know really. That's like I say, it's just like I say, he got promoted up through ranks, did Todd Howard, and he ended up being. I think the first game he worked on was Elder Scrolls Redguard, which was a mobile game or something. Yeah, Elder Scrolls Redguard. That's the first one he worked on apparently, where he was in charge, and. As we know, it did not do well. I mean, there's people that you can point out that there's an Elder Scrolls Redguard, and they'll look at you funny and think, "What the hell are you talking about?" Which is, you know, fair enough, because like I say, it's so obscure, you know. It's a surprise anybody knows of it. Hell, I didn't know about it for the longest time. Yeah, it's a story game, exactly. That's the sort of thing he wants to make, a story game. And unfortunately, he's in the wrong company to make that story game that he wants to make. He needs to go work for some other company. Maybe BioWare should hire him, and maybe they'd actually start making some actually interesting games again. Yeah, like I say, the guy who was the original dude, he's kind of fallen out of the game industry, which is a shame. You know, he doesn't work in games anymore. You know, he worked on some games here and there, but he just teaches now, and I was like, well, that's a crying shame. This is a guy that people are crying out for these. Yeah, Dread guy that does the best story, but horrible gameplay. I don't know. I've never seen. I've only seen a 5-second clip of it, and it was just of a dude walking down a street, and that's all I've seen of it, and that's pretty much all I want to see of it. So. Yeah, like you point out, it's a story game, and nobody plays Elder Scrolls for story. I mean, they don't play it specifically for the story. They like the story there. It's a nice bonus. But if you took the story out of Elder Scrolls, people wouldn't be too beaten up over it. So this is the other mods I have where I can bring this with me. See, I'm outside of that settlement, but here I can, I don't know, delete this car. or these two corpses which just fall outside of Sanctuary's border. Such as like this car also falls out of it now. Delete it. Over that engine. Which is incredibly fun. I have a bit of an addiction to deleting stuff. Build, yeah. It's pretty much a crack cocaine level of mod for me, because like I just said, you know, I like to just do that kind of stuff, just clean up, deleting all this stuff. I like to delete trash and all that kind of stuff and just move around, deleting stuff and clearing up the world. And the other wonderful aspect of this is that it also has a whole box. So yeah, spend hours in settlements. Me too. In fact, let me just say before I go and lose everything. If I can load it, well I won't load it, but if I can get it to in this one, I think it is. No, not that one. This, I think it's, yeah, this one. Now you see it says 2 days, 6 hours and 50 minutes, and that's just doing settlement stuff. Well, I'd say maybe an hour, or maybe, we'll say 3 hours is like questing and going and grabbing a few things. But most of that was just me running across the wasteland and deleting stuff like this, doing that, and doing that. In fact, I got a bit carried away one place area, so kind of had to stop myself before I got carried away. So, just played the game when I first started the settlements. And, pretty much enjoyed the settlement stuff, as I said. And I built a wall entirety of the settlement of Sanctuary. A full-on wall, and then I put turrets everywhere, and I built up little houses and all this kind of jazz, and decorated them. And as I was mentioning when I started up stream, it was aggrieved because they couldn't delete the trash on the floor, and so I had these like piles in the middle of the floor, and I was putting a rug on them. And I couldn't move the bloody rug flat. Floating rugs in above me. Yeah, you have the one which is Diamond City, and the Bunker Hill, which is like a tiny settlement setup. But even Bunker Hill becomes a settlement that you can modify. Yeah. Diamond City is the only settlement that I think you can't modify, and it's the only one, you know. It's kind of in Fallout 3, you had Rivet City, Megaton, Canterbury Hills. I think is it Canterbury Hills or Canterbury Falls or whatever. Canterbury Commons is the other one. Hello, fella. There's Canterbury Commons, isn't it? I think it's Canterbury Commons. The little place where all the merchants turn up in Fallout 3. And then there was the Republic of Dave. And then there's New Vegas, where there's Prim and Good Neighbour and all that kind of stuff. Sorry, not Good Neighbour's in this, innit? Yeah. Yeah, there's Good Neighbour here, isn't there? So that's free. So yeah, there's less established settlements in Fallout 4, because I think the problem is they were worried that if they just give you one settlement, that people would get all sad and, you know, might get bored or something. I don't know. And they wanted to provide variety for those that were like, you know, obviously they have Sanctuary here. And obviously that's usually where people set up their main base, but then there would be those that are like, nah, I don't like it, and they might have set up there or somewhere else. But I think what they should have done is have these various little places that are what you can set up as settlements, but once you set it up as a settlement, you know, there's no settlements you set up. Well, I mean, that's how I'd do it if I were in charge. I'd say, look, you've set this up as a settlement, that's the only one you edit, you know? Because then if anybody does want to edit other settlements, there's mods, you know. They can like I said, then they could focus on having like the one settlement become like a hub. And they can check the wasteland, yeah. Like when I was playthrough, when I did every settlement, I cleared out every settlement, I set them all up, I got them all set up and ready, and then the caravan trails set up, and they got to the point where they were getting all they were getting like, they were getting kind of what were the other problem I ran into? Was the traders that the caravan would get stuck. They'd all. It's like there were one point I came back and all the caravans were stood here, and some of them weren't even supposed to be here. There was some between. I think it was Hangman's Alley and Oberland Station. The settler that I had set up there, I knew specifically because I'd given them a different set of armour to everyone else because I'd given them all armour each, and they were also stood here, and I had no idea why, because they're not connected. They weren't connected to Sanctuary. They were just connected back and forth between Hangman's Alley and Oberland Station. So, like I said, I think, like I said, there's too many settlements that you can do. Because they didn't want to make it so that you could just pick one, you know. They wanted that option so anybody could pick wherever they wanted to go, which is fair enough, but it's like when you pick that, it becomes a... Yeah, settlers are janky. Like the other that settlers thing as well is that I had settlers that disappear on me, you know, and it'd be up there in the numbers, and they'd be say, oh, you know, you've got your 10 settlers, and I'd look around, there'd be 5, and I'd be like, where's the other 5, you know, and you couldn't find them. And I'd set up out, and they'd use the bell, and they'd not turn up, and all this kind of stuff. Like, there was one playthrough, I'm not sure if it's a bug that's been fixed or not, I don't know, I don't even know what caused it, to be quite honest, but I got them. The signs led to a thing. Immediately they'd turn around and start attacking me. Season. Attack them. I didn't have anything set up, no quests like nonsense. Weren't the everybody would attack me all at once. Clearly they were not fond of work. No, not at the moment, I'm afraid, fella. My internet's a little choppy, so I need to kind of keep as free as possible, preferably. But thank you for the offer, though. It's much appreciated. The other thing as well is when you get the settlers that don't have a name, they're just called settler, you know. So you'd end up with 2 people that look the same, you know, wearing the same outfits, all, you know, same hairstyle and everything. You're like, which one's which, you know? And you get confused. So I play all sorts. I've streamed Yakuza 6. Just finished today storyline for Morrowind. And at the moment I'm just tooling around in Fallout 4 at the moment. While it's like I say, I'd finished Morrowind, but I didn't really feel like doing any add-ons for it. Not today. Anyway. I might do them another day. But I wasn't ready to come off the stream yet, so I thought I'll play some Fallout, because I've been anchored to play some Fallout. But besides the Elder Scrolls and Fallout series, I play Final Fantasy stuff. I beat Morrowind, yeah. The main storyline, the Daggerfur stuff, yeah. I defeated him. Yeah. What else do I play? I play Final Fantasy. I play. I've been playing to start again, but I've been playing Kingdom Come Deliverance. I play multiplayer games occasionally. I'm not big on multiplayer games, but I do occasionally have a tinker with a multiplayer game. I think the last one, what was the last thing I played? I think I played the multiplayer in Sniper Elite, I think it was. See, a playthrough Oblivion. I might do eventually, yeah. It's been a while since I've played it, so I might have to have a refresher, you know? And like I say, I just finished Morrowind, so next is obviously Oblivion, so might have to. I mean, like I say, it's been a while since I've played it, so it's due for a playthrough again. But other multiplayer games, what else have I played? Okay, I played the occasional Call of Duty for a bit of mindless fun, or a Battlefield, whichever one's the current, or whichever one I've got anyway. Funnily enough, I actually have the faces in there, yeah. Yes, there was quite you. But, yeah, I have the, I think, is it, well, it's not, which is it now? Infinity was the for, so World War II is the one that's just come out in it, Call of Duty. Well, I think my brother has that. I have Infinity War, but I haven't played it. Because I got it because it was like, I think it was £5. So I thought, well, you know, whatever, you know, £5. It's like on Amazon. I got it for £5. Oh no, it was from a rental thing. I have a rental thing that I rent games from. And COD 4 is... Hey, a lot of people say that, yeah. That's when I played. Funnily enough, my sister actually played COD 2, I think it was, which is her favourite COD. My sister was the one that actually liked COD before me. I mean, I played COD 4, I was like, hey, what's this game? I tried it out, and I was like, well, this is fun. So, I think that was actually the first game I ever played in multiplayer online, actually. And I played quite a lot, which is like, I'm not a big multiplayer, you know, like I say, I dabble. I'm not particularly good at the shooters. Most of my time is spent looking at the "You Are Dead" screen. It's multiplayer fun. Exactly. That's why I play it. Good mindless fun. Like another of my guilty pleasures is the Warriors. It's like say, you know, mindless fun. You know, just go around, slaughter a few thousand people for jollies. You know, as you do. So that's another series I play on occasion. Is the Warriors games, for want of a better term. What else? I think I'll say 75% of the way through, or East 8. I think it's pronounced East. YS. That's what I was playing last on PS4, just before I started, basically. That's what I played. I was most of the way through East. Kingdom Come Deliverance I'd started, but I never finished. I had to get that done. Yeah, exactly. It's guilty pleasure, you know. The only problem I have with the current Dynasty Warriors games is that the voices are all in Japanese. Now, I know some folks have they prefer the voices for Japanese RPGs have yet to be in Japanese, and that's fair enough, you know. To each their own. It's the worst best game, exactly. I have 9 obviously as well. That's something else I've started playing, but what was I saying? Ah yes, English, Japanese, right, yeah. I prefer the English voices, and not even because of quality levels, like, which is what a lot of people prefer Japanese for, because they say that the Japanese voice are all what have you. And like I said, once again, it's fair enough, it's a preference thing, you know. But my problem I had, whereas the first one that was just in Japanese, there was no English in the very English but in 9, it's atrocious, yeah. I don't know, I've never read the Japanese of it, so I can't really say one way or another, and quite honest, I'm good. But I think Warriors. No, it was Warriors Orochi. I think the first one said started just doing it in Japanese on it. The voiceovers. I mean, obviously it was translated in English, the text, but there were no English voices. But there was a scene in one of the games where there's a character yapping at me about something. I was too busy fighting all the bad guys, so I didn't. I didn't see dying, and I wasn't sure what was happening because I wasn't being killed outright. I was playing it on highest difficulty for a lark, and I was too busy. Like I say, I was on highest difficulty. So I had to focus on what was happening. I couldn't read what the guy was yapping at me about, and he was actually telling me that you need to go to this place or else we can't win. And so stopped in 7. Yeah, I think that was in the main series. Yeah, is when they stopped doing English in 7. Sounds about right. Right, it was Warriors Orochi, I think, where I had ran into this problem. Were it 2 when they started doing just Japanese, or 3? No, I think it was Warriors Orochi 3 when it happened. But either way, like I said, it was in game. I don't know which character it was, don't know what story it was, don't know what was happening. I just know somebody was saying, we need to go here to do this, or we need to do that, or else it's not going to work. And I was like, yeah, whatever, you're yapping about something. I'm just fighting all these bad guys off. And I kept failing, and I was like, what the hell's happening? And basically I'd gotten to the point where I was bored, and I was reading what was happening instead of paying attention to the game. And I realised he was saying, oh, you need to do this, and so I did it and finally beat the level, and I was like, how can I be focusing on subtitles and fight bad guys at the same time? What do I think of 9? What I've played of it so far, it seems alright, but I don't know. I don't think I've played enough of it to really say. And my problem with Dynasty Warriors is I have to feel like playing it to know whether what my thoughts on it are. If that makes any sense, you know. Like if I'm not playing it at the moment, or at that current time, I can't really judge it. To be honest, it's kind of weird with Dynasty Warriors. It's one of the few games where I can't do that, where I'm like not playing it, so I can't say. Not like I'm being secretive or I literally can't really. I think I played about, we'll say 20. I mean, you start out as Xiao or not Xiao Dun, Cao, innit? I got up to the bit where you have to go assassinate Dongzhuo, I think it is. That's the part of the story I'm up to. The open world ruined it. And they had this vast open area with bugger all happening in it. The only places where it happens are in the forts, which is basically just previous Dynasty Warriors, which is basically the levels from previous Dynasty Warriors, which is, you know, it's previous Dynasty Warriors with the ability to walk for 16 hours across the landscape. Which, you know, it's kind of something it didn't really need. You know, I think the problem with Dynasty Warriors is that because open world's kind of the popular genre. That's the reason they just latched onto it. Yeah, 16 hours exactly. Oh, it's a big place. It's China. Takes a good long jaunt across the old countryside to get to wherever you go. So yeah, I think the problem with Dynasty Warriors 9 is they just jumped on the open world bandwagon. You know, it's like, oh, everybody's doing open world, we'll do it. And they didn't really think. I'm sure there's a way they could do a Dynasty Warriors that works open world. Now that I think about it, I feel like the open world is missing something. Now that I think about it, that's basically all I can remember, is that I felt like there was something missing. It's true, exactly. Yeah, but I felt, like I say, I feel like there's something missing from Dynasty Warriors 9 with the open worldiness. They've added in the open world, but it's lost something. Not that there was much there in the beginning, you know. It's like we say, you know, it's Dynasty Warriors in its mindless fun, but combat seems pretty good. Yeah, it's an improvement. That's kind of like Dynasty Warriors thing, you know. the word I'm looking for. They're improvements. They don't always just jump to supremely better than the last game. It's just like, this is slightly better, that's slightly better. And they don't generally backslide, you know. When they come up with a better idea, they kind of stick with it and just tweak it until it's best, and then they stick with it and leave it at that. That's kind of why a lot of people go, oh, it's the same. Which it is, that's fair enough, but then so is Call of Duty, you know. It's kind of... I mean, you know, we kind of have that. That's a bit of a problem with gaming in general, really, is that they get an idea that works and they don't try out new because if it don't work, you know, then they have to go back to the drawing board. I think that's the problem with, that might be a problem with next Elder Scrolls, is that they don't do new. First Warriors game, I believe that was Dynasty Warriors 3, I think. Or it 2. All I remember is that there's one level, and it's the level where Liu Bei's son surrenders. Because it's free, yeah. I think it's free, the one that I first played. The best one. I can't, to be quite honest, I can't really remember much about free. I can't even remember much about... So... can't really say, but the only thing I can remember from the first Dynasty Warriors I played was there's a mission where I think you're playing sire out of Liu Bei's son, whatever his name is, and he's basically going to try and surrender to the enemy, and you have to try and stop him. And I could never beat him there. I could never stop him. So I kind of stopped playing that one, and then I played the next Dynasty Warriors after that one. And that was the one that kind of solidified me playing it forever. So it's whichever one was the one where Liu Chan, or whatever his name is, was... I think he was first introduced in that one. Maybe you play as Xiao Yun. I can't even remember who it is you play in the bloody mission. That's the other problem, you know. There's oh, who is it? Well, either way, like I say, that's the first Dynasty Warriors I ever played. Is the one where Anne is trying to, I think it's Cao Cao or whoever. He's trying to surrender to someone. He's trying to give up, and you're supposed to try and stop him. Which I don't know. I think it's historically accurate that he does end up surrendering, but who cares? You're supposed to try and stop him, right? So I don't know. I can't remember which one that is though. I can exactly barely remember the missions. Hell, I can barely remember the characters. Like I was just saying, I can't tell you what happened in Dynasty Warriors 8. I think the first one that stuck out to me of Dynasty Warriors, like I can remember for certain everything about, well, not everything about, well, it sticks out in my mind, but I can't tell you anything about it. Is it Dynasty Warriors 6? Where they added in the fort system, where you ended up going to a fort and they had this thing where they'd encircle you with all the bad guys while you fought the officer. And if you beat the officer, you won the fort, something like that. That was the first that stuck out in my mind as... not for any particular reason, not for it being bad or good, or just that's the first one that stuck in my mind where there's a detail that I can remember for certain of the game of itself, you know, action in it, sort of thing. Couldn't tell you what you do in it. Because I can't tell you what happened in Dynasty Warriors. Hell, I don't even think I can tell you much about what happened in Dynasty Warriors 9, and I only played it a couple of months ago. The circle thing, yeah, I thought that was kind of a neat idea, you know, you had this kind of like face-off against an officer, you know, where you kind of throw down with each other, you know, who's the tougher guy, you know. And then you don't have to kind of like wade through this of faceless enemies trying to find this one officer. You kill him, you don't even realise it half the time. It's like, oh, he's just killed an officer. Oh, that's good to know. Moving on. Like I say, kind of like it made it like almost like a boss battle without kind of anybody having to be a specific boss. Because Lu Bu's always a boss, and there's always the three leaders of the there's always Spain, Sunshine or whatever his bloody name is, and South. They're always a boss. But it kind of made it so that anybody could be a boss, you know. If somebody was important in that battle, they could be a boss just by being in a fort. Because it only happened in the forts, if I remember rightly, it made it so that it didn't happen. You know, so you didn't go, oh, it's another circle thing. It's like, right, I've got to go do this fort. I know I've got to do this circle thing. So let's. You know, it was something you knew only happened in there, and so you didn't get overly burnt out on it. I mean, too much Dynasty Warriors in one go is bad for your health. I know this because I suffered this problem, we'll call it, after playing. I think it was around Dynasty Warriors 6 era. I can't tell you, I remember. But basically, I'd played so much Dynasty Warriors that even in my dreams I was playing Dynasty Warriors and it was driving me up the wall. But yeah, I was like, I'd come off the game, I was like, right, I'm done with the game, and then I'd go to bed at night and I was still playing it in my dreams. I was like, no, I've had enough, leave me alone. Please, just let me sleep. It kind of... I realised that perhaps Dynasty Warriors needs to be played in small doses. You don't just blaze your way through the entirety of Dynasty Warriors. Not unless you want to drive yourself insane. I suppose that's kind of the case with any kind of mindless game. You play it too much, you start dreaming it, and then I think that happened with. I've had that happen with. I think it was Call of Duty where it also happened with. No, it was a first-person shooter. I'm not certain if it was Bad Company 2. Because Bad Company 2, I never played the storyline very far. I intended to, but I wanted to beat Bad Company 1 first, and I never got around to beating it. But because Bad Company 2 had just come out, I was like, oh, the multiplayer will be active, so I'll have a go of it. I want to play the multiplayer, so I did, and I played it, and I got a real high level on it, and I was having a blast. But it was getting to the point where it was happening in my dreams. And I was like, that's perhaps a bit too much backup. Yeah. Exactly. I'm going to call it Dynasty Warriors. Or excessive Dynasty Warriors syndrome, that's more like it. It's bad for your health. Mental health. Physical health, I'm not so certain. Maybe it's good for your physical health. I don't know. I wouldn't say so. It's a net neutral. I mean, you're not exercising, so it's not, you know... It's not amazing for your health, but you're not, I don't know, you're not killing yourself, so I suppose it's a neutral, right? But mentally speaking, dangerous playing too much Dynasty Warriors. Or anything. Unless it's Fallout. Never too much Fallout. But they can't do that, that would be against the law. I'm going to say it's against the law. I mean, there's part of me that kind of hopes that the next Bethesda game is either Fallout, an Elder Scrolls, or a new game. I know that's kind of hedging your bets. Well, that's basically anything. That could be anything. Yeah, I know. Like I said, I'm equally torn between I want a new Fallout, because I like Fallout. But I know that if they bring out a Fallout, people will be burnt out on Fallout. I want a new Elder Scrolls, because they're bound to make a new Elder Scrolls. Hello. Thanks for joining us. Just talking about excessive Dynasty Warriors syndrome. If that's something you also suffer with, then join our... But this I was I forgot what it was. Who was saying it the other day? There was somebody mentioning that apparently there was a guy saying that Bethesda are working on a new IP, and that it's supposed to be like a there's that kind of reticence to see the next one because, like I mentioned when I was playing Morrowind, there's a part of me that knows that there'll be something missing. You know, there'll be yet another slice of the Elder Scrolls experience gone. You know, like when they went from Morrowind to Elder Scrolls, the thing that I noticed was the space game. Yeah, that's what the guy was mentioning. Yeah, space game. And there's part of me that'd be I'd be excited to see that, but there's part of me that thinks I don't know. You know, Bethesda might mess it up, and then maybe they'll make an awesome game. Who knows? Maybe they'll throw a curveball. Like when they announced Skyrim, that was kind of a curveball because nobody was expecting it yet. More streamlined, yeah. I mean, there's certain things that should be streamlined, like control schemes. You know, if you don't need it to be overly maddening to try and get your character to do something that should be relatively simple. But when they start like cutting stuff out because, oh, you know, you don't need this and you don't need that, it's odd whether you need it. It's whether you want it, you know. I want chucking stars in an Elder Scroll. Because how do you play as a ninja without chucking stars, you know? No ninjas don't go around without chucking stars. And there's no chucking darts, you know? There's no... I mean, they added crossbows back in it in Skyrim with the Dawn Guard add-on? An open world, exactly. It'll stop being an RPG. I mean, Fallout's kind of got that kind of a bit of that problem. Because it's supposed to be an RPG, but then it's just perks, you know? It's not... Perks are RPGs. That's an action game. You know? That's kind of my gripe with The Witcher 3 as well, is the amount of people that say, oh, it's the best RPG. I was like, no, it's the best. If it's the best anything, the closest thing it is the best open world action adventure. It's not an RPG. Sure, you've got levels. But that's just to cover the fact that you're earning perks. You know? Perks it's an action game thing. Yeah, an adventure game, you know, you just... It's open world, and that's what throws a lot of people. It's too many... Well, it's the gaming press that's most of the problem, really. It's that simple-minded bunch. And if they can't say it in one word, it's, you know, it's not oh, it's a platformer, then it can't be how else, you know. If it is, everything's the Dark Souls of Summit, you know, and everything's open world, you know. Everything's an RPG, sorry, if it's open world. You know? Don't matter if it's not to do with RPG, as long as it's open world, somehow an RPG. Like I said, like with The Witcher 3, it's not a RPG, it's an action adventure. And it's not a straight up adventure as such, like you say, it's because adventure's more about the story, the focus in The Witcher is kind of the combat. Everything's RPG, exactly, because I think what happened was the problem with everything becoming RPGs, that there was that period where RPGs were the popular game, for want of a better term. Like I think at the moment it's open world games, just open world in general. There was at one point there was when Call of Duty 4 came out, it became first-person shooters again. I mean, first-person shooters are often the popular game at the moment because they're, for want of a better term, slightly more immersive. You know, in some aspects, because you just, this is your view, you know. But enough. I mean, technically, what is it? Technically, this is closer to your, if it wasn't offset your character, technically that's closer to how much you could see in real life. Because obviously, yeah, military shooters, yeah, that was the one with Call of Duty. First person military shooters. Yeah, just for military shooters, because there were third person ones, weren't there? Like when Uncharted came out and was successful, everything had to be action adventure. Everything had to be. It didn't matter if it fit or not. It had to be action adventure. And the problem was that, I mean, when Uncharted came out, I liked it, but it's one of those games where, as time's gone on, I've realised that it's not as good as I originally thought it was. Yeah, and the further they've got into the series, the worse it's got. I mean, like I said, when I originally played Uncharted, I think the problem was that I was starved for the kind of game that it was. You know, like an adventure, just a straight up action adventure. You know, no kind of messing about. Just there you go, action adventure kind of thing with shooting mechanics. Because I mean, one of my favourite action adventure wise was the Tomb Raider games, and the current ones suck. Just to get that out of the road. I hate the writing in them, because that was I feel that with the original Tomb Raiders, they actually had a pretty decent story, even though the story was kind of like a secondary thing. You know, it's like, oh yeah, we'll chuck in a story as well. You know, the focus was really about just going through a tomb and looting it of all its, well, trying to find this secret treasure, you know, solving puzzles, you know, and then they kind of just strapped on this bare minimum story to kind of just for impetus for the player, you know, to give them a reason to do it, rather than just say, here's some puzzles, have fun. Which is good, you know, you should give a player a reason to do stuff, otherwise why bother playing it, you know. And in recent years I've come to believe that the original Tomb Raiders actually had pretty good stories, because it was less a case of, because nowadays stories, it's more a focus on yeah, well, everybody has their own kind of genres and stuff that they play a lot, you know. It's not a mind the world sort of thing, but yeah, the story, it's very minimalistic. But the case with the original Tomb Raiders was a case of show you rather than tell you about it. You know, here's a place, you know, and it's this design to the architecture, and there's these totems and everything, and you just kind of like imagine your own reason why it's like that. I mean, obviously they say, oh, it's in Egypt, or it's in Aztec lands, or whatever, temple, or it's a temple, or whatever, you know. Bollocks. I'll just delete the floor of the house. Well, goodbye house. Change your mind, I don't want this house anymore. But yeah, the like I said, the emphasis was on the because the emphasis was on the gaming, the platforming and the puzzle solving. So the story kind of took a backseat, but at the same time, I feel like that kind of added a strength to the story, because, like I said, they didn't focus on trying to be this overly dramatic nonsense. You know, just here's a woman that goes into a tomb to clear it of bad guys so she can rob it of its loot. I mean, save the architecture or whatever. Sorry, not the architecture. Find these treasures so that other bad guys can't have them, you know? And it's like, okay, cool. Like I say, there's like, they build character through very simple little things. Like, she says one line and it kind of like builds this detail about it without having to go into massive detail, like, oh, this is a backstory and she did all this and this is the reason why. You know, it's just, she just says this one line where she says something like, she's on about this character that she's chasing after is called Pierre. He's a fellow Tomb Raider, a rival Tomb Raider, sorry. Pierre, you litterbug. And it shows that she's kind of got this rivalry with this Pierre fella, because she says it in a kind of like friendly kind of way, like they're like friends almost, even though you basically have to kill the bugger, you know. And it shows she's kind of got this neat streak, from one of her terms, that she almost like she's aware of the, she's climbed up to this monastery that's on a massive rock thing in Greece, I think it's supposed to be. And he's left these empty tins of food by a little campfire that he'd obviously had. And she's obviously, like I say, aware of the kind of mess he's left, you know, this kind of environmental impact almost, without being like some sort of environmental activist nonsense. Yeah, and so, like I say, it kind of built a little bit of a story without going, oh, and she's a neat freak, and here's a big cutscene to show it. It's like, yeah, that's great, and that's how they do it in Modern Warfare. It's like, oh, we've got to show all this details about our backstory. It's like, no, you don't. Just give us some fun gameplay, and even the gameplay sucks as well. It's and the problem is the writer, the new Tomb Raider. I dislike their work with a passion. No matter what game this writer works on, it's terrible. The storyline. It's Rihanna Pratchett, Terry Pratchett's daughter. She sucks the story writing. She worked on a game called Overlord, and it was basically, she ripped all the ideas from Dungeon Master, I think it was, and what's the other game she nicked the idea from? The storyline basically is, obviously you play this evil Overlord fella, and you're basically fighting against these heroes, and the heroes have become corrupt, which is exactly how, I think it's called Dungeon Master or Dungeon Keeper or something like that. EA, I think, is the one that owns the rights to it. I think it was Peter Molyneux who developed the game in question. Basically the story of Overlord, the first one, it's just ripped. And people will go out of their way to make it out that she kind of came up with this. And it's brilliant, because, well, reasons, but let's not go into it. And then she worked on, what were the other things she worked on? Yeah, I mean, it's an alright game. I mean, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed it at the time, you know, but then again at the time I was starved for interesting games, so I suppose that's kind of what did it. But it's, like I said, the amount of people, at the time, on the place that I was talking to folks, the amount of people that made it out to be, oh, it's great, I was like, no. It's alright, you know. Yeah, the little minions, you had your various little types of minions. You had your brown ones, which were your general ones, and they were just like non-elemental. And I think I think they were elemental, the rest of them. Like you had fire and ice and all. Or there was stronger, I can't remember. I just know that you'd like have these, but the story is kind of, like I say, it's a copy straight out of I think it's called Dungeon Keeper. I'm just going to call it Dungeon Keeper. I can't remember its name though. That's where the story is straight up from it. Obviously, like I say, the game's about this Overlord, which is same as Dungeon Keeper, fair enough. And it's got minions like Dungeon Keeper, fair enough. But the story didn't have to be the same. Like it's like somebody saying, no, it's not the same. You know, it's about this guy who's an evil Overlord becoming like the Overlord. He's not building the dungeons to kill bad guys and all that. But the main antagonists of Overlord is heroes of various different stripes, but they're all basically supposed to represent a certain virtue, and they've all become corrupt, and they represent like there's one that's represents greed and is this rather rotund, I think he's an elf, and he's really rather rotund, we'll say. He chucks food everywhere, and I think that's his attack. Then there's the knight who's incredibly arrogant, so he represents pride. And he was supposed to be kind of like this pious, like, knight dude who's like very humble, you know, the virtue of humility, and he becomes, like I say, he becomes like pride and all this kind of nonsense. Like I say, it's straight up copy and pasted from the for want of a better term, villains, or antagonists is a better term. The antagonists of Dungeon Keeper. So, like I say, and then it was like, oh, it's just this one game. So I thought, okay, and then I think it was, yeah, she worked on Mirror's Edge, and I thought that story was terrible. They were just boring, you know. Didn't like the game. mean, I didn't like the game not because the game was bad or anything. I just felt it just wasn't my sort of thing. Way too there was another problem, but the story, man, oh, it was mediocre at best. There were people claiming it was the best thing since sliced bread, and people clamour for a new Mirror's Edge, and I'm like, why? First one sucked. And then people hound me and try to, you know, they'll probably have me try have me burnt at the stake, possibly, if I'm not careful. I don't know. The right people hear me anyway. So, and then people might think, 2 out of, it's 2 games, and then you think, oh, okay, so what about Tomb Raider? And like, she worked on Tomb Raider, and that's terrible. It's like she's made Lara from this kind of strong adventurer that don't give a shit about what other people think. She's just in there to kind of loot these treasures, basically what's there, she's an archaeologist, she claims she is, she's trying to find these lost treasures so they can be preserved. That's the shtick anyway. And these new ones, she's whiny, she's always complaining, she whinges everywhere. She's always going on about, oh, everything's so difficult. It's like, please stop whining, woman. What happened to you? It's her origin story. No, that's not an origin story. Terrible origin story. Start again. E minus. See me after school or something, I don't know. Tell you, I don't know who her teacher was for writing, but they need to be fired. If it isn't apparent, I'm a writer myself. I ain't published out, and the book I'm working on isn't done. But I know enough that I can recognise a thanks. Exactly. Yeah, I'll be burnt at the stake. How dare you insult the what's the word I'm looking for? The glorious Mirror's Edge series. It's the best thing since sliced bread, don't you know? Shackle him. He profaned the honoured Mirror's Edge series. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that anybody shouldn't enjoy it. I think my sister likes that game. I mean, she has it. She has it for PS3 Heresy. Yeah. I'll be getting excommunicated from the gaming circle somehow. I don't know how that happens. Maybe the techie console's off you. I'm not sure. Like, you're no longer allowed to be a gamer. Like I said, the amount of people that had a hissy fit when I mentioned it on a forum that I thought she was a terrible writer back in the day, on when it was Mirror's Edge was just come out. It was on a forum I used to go to. I stopped going to it because they got a little rabid in certain issues, we'll say that. We'll leave it at that. And they were like, no, it's great, it's Mirror's Edge, it's the best story. I was like, no, I'm pretty sure it's not. Pretty sure it's mediocre at best. Boy, were they militant about that game. No one was allowed to say anything negative. Very, very, very scary. Which is a shame, because the site started off pretty alright. Just they got infiltrated by people that just didn't give a shit about the games in question. They cared about what the game had in it, which is always a shame. But yeah, I mean, one of the big selling points for me is a story in a game. Like, I mean, Fallout and Elder Scrolls are supposed to be open world. This I know. I like the story in them. Funnily enough, I like it enough that I want the story to be there, but I don't like it so much that I want to sacrifice the open world for it. Just before Todd Howard thinks that I'm giving him the go-ahead. It's like, oh, he says it's alright, let's do it, let's go full steam ahead. No! Don't listen to me, change my mind. I pretend I don't like story after all. Yeah, story's my shtick. I like a story game, so... The problem is that a lot of the games they hold up as awesome story games now suck. like they went on about all these Telltale games. I was like, okay, I'll try one. I played the Walking Dead game, and I'm not that big of a fan of Walking Dead anymore. I mean, it started out alright, and then it got, like second series, it was already dragged. In my opinion, I don't know. Maybe other people think it's great. I don't know. But to me, I thought it was kind of dragging by the end of first season, mid second season, and the third season. My God, was that an episode of torture? If I ever want to torture someone, I'll make them watch season 3 of Walking Dead. But I played the before I even watched the series fully. I watched. I think it was 3 or 4 episodes of the first season, and that's I think it was about then that I played the Walking Dead series, and there was all these people going, "Oh, it's the best story." I was like, "All right, so I'll play it," and it was just. I mean, they made it out as this. It was this deep game with all these choices, and I made a choice and I can't remember specifically what happens. There's a woman with a gun and a guy stuck by a door, and you have a choice of helping the guy by the door or helping the woman. Those are choices again. Like, sweet, I'll pick the guy who doesn't have a gun. So I picked the guy by the door to help, because the woman with a gun, I thought she could shoot the zombie at her foot that's grabbing her foot. I thought, what's the big deal? And because I picked the guy by the door, she ends up dead. I was like, hang on, that makes no sense. What, eh? Why don't she use the gun, you know? But far be it for me to criticise the much lauded Telltale and their repeated business model. Once again, another one of those aspects that makes me a heretic. How dare you question the beloved Telltale stuff? You know, you've played one Telltale game, or the adventure variety, and you've played them all, pretty much. It's a grey area issue. Sure it is. You mean I've got to pick between this guy or that guy, right? And later on it doesn't matter because it's gonna backfire on me anyway, yeah? Okay, good to know. Oh, that's the last one. 30 minutes. I do like my stories in my games, I just like them to be well written. Speaking of open world RPGs that are focused on the simulation aspect of things, I don't know if you've heard about this game. It's called Underworld Ascendant. It's coming out. Don't know if it's this year or next year. Possibly. I don't know. Coming out in the future. This is all I can guarantee, is that it's coming out in the future. It's made by Warren Spector and all the people that worked on Deus Ex and Thief and System Shock. And basically it's, I don't know if you've ever played Ultima. I mean, I haven't, but it's basically apparently a spiritual successor to them. And it's kind of like Scroll should. I don't know if it's full on open world, but it is somewhat open worldy. But you kind of like, it's got that simulation aspect of you solve the issue however you want. It's like they showed off a particular thing in the game because they've got a magic crafting system where it's basically you use runes and you merge them together and it makes a spell. It has modified. It's called Underworld Ascendant. What's this? The studios, I think it's called Otherworld Studios, something like that, or something like that. Like I say, Warren Spector and that are working on it. Paul Neurath, Warren Spector, the people that worked on like Thief and Deus Ex and all that originally. But it's they like I say, this magic system is basically runes. They have elements and modifiers or something like that, and so you'll have a fire push, and you put them together, and it'll chuck a fireball out, for example. That's how the system works. Or you can have I don't know, water rune and a rock rune, and it'll make a block of ice or something, or it'll freeze. You'll add a rune modifier that makes it into a mist, and you can freeze stuff, or something like that. You know, that kind of idea. Anyway, I don't know if that's specifically something you can do, but basically, there was this one scene where they were running away from lizardmen, I think it was. And so they grew a mushroom in a doorway to block the lizard man. you know, using these spells. And then there was another one where they had this thing where they built this like chain with these crates using this lightning spell, and attached it to a wall and used it to go across a gap. And then there was another one where they chucked that same bad guy to hurt it. And it's been narrated by Stephen Russell, my favourite voice actor, who voices Codsworth and Nick Valentine and all that, so that was a good selling point. I mean, it's made by people who make Deus Ex and Thief and System Shock, which are some of my favourite games. I mean, System Shock's a favourite game of mine. I've never even played it. So I've seen people play it enough to know what it's about though, so I very much like what it is. It's like they're working on System Shock 3 as well, which quite a few people are excited for. I mean, people have been wanting a System Shock 3 since System Shock 2 came out, as far as I'm aware. So and they're making that. Which is why it's kind of a shame that the people that were remastering 1, there was another studio there called Night Dive Studios, and they basically kickstarted a remaster of System Shock 1, but they got enough money where their ambitions started outpacing their initial vision, and it kind of started going a bit sideways, so they kind of pushed back the release and changed it back to the idea of going back to basics. It looks awesome, but there's no set in stone release date yet. I've read somewhere, I've seen in various places where they've said, oh, you know, end of 2018, but they were saying that end of last year, so it could be 2019, 2020 even before it comes out. So I'm not entirely certain when it comes out, but I mean, it can't be that far off in the future. Hopefully. Yeah, I believe they said it's for consoles, PC and all that kind of jazz. I think they said so anyway, yeah. I mean, I don't know if it'll be coming out on consoles at the same time or not, because I think there's only like 20 of them at the studio, so they're not that large a group, but then again they are industry vets, so they know what they're doing. So even with 20 people I bet they could crank out a pretty awesome game. What did I want to do next? Oh yeah, I wanted to go to this house. Exactly, Daggerfall vibe. That was one of the things that was their inspiration. You know, they wanted to kind of go back to that kind of RPG. You know, where it's kind of more on the simulation side of things. I mean, the reason once again, it's the same guy I found out about because like he loves Daggerfall, and when they mentioned this, he was like, "Oh, this looks just like Daggerfall," you know, and so he was sold on it right away. And he was showing it off in one of his videos or his streams or what have you. That's how I saw it, and I was like, hey, this looks pretty awesome, you know, it's like Elder Scrolls should be, you know, after Daggerfall. So basically, I envisioned that the guy who worked on Daggerfall would have continued on if he'd have got the go ahead. But he didn't, so unfortunately, with Morrowind. I say unfortunate. Makes me sound like I don't like Morrowind. It's somewhat unfortunate that we ended up with the timeline we ended up with. Yeah, that sounds less dismissive of Morrowind. What with it being one of my favourite RPGs, I can't really. And Morrowind? That'll be rude. Especially considering, like I say, Morrowind is my on my favourite RPGs. Well, one of them anyway. Favourite Western RPGs for certain. It's top 5, we'll say. What the? Oh, it's my dog. Just made me leap out of my skin. One of these days I'll get used to stuff sneaking up on me like that. So let's see. So we need to delete these little buggers. Kingdom of Deliverance is awesome. For me, anyway. That's the other thing that's my shtick is history. I love history stuff and like that kind of Middle Ages stuff. But from an RPG standpoint, it's kind of like a. It's like a cross between, for want of a better term, The Witcher and Elder Scrolls Oblivion. We'll say. Because it's kind of got that knightly feel of Oblivion, you know, you got your dudes in armour and battles and castles and all that kind of stuff, and people, you know, dealing with Middle Ages sort of stuff. But it's more on The Witch because it's more on the kind of the what they call low fantasy end. You know, there's no magic in it. It's alchemy, and that kind of stuff. But there's you don't go chucking spells. It's all about swords and bows and knives and axes and maces and that kind of good stuff. Folks that you Skyrim players, I mean it's got some what Skyrim players would call quality of life stuff. You know, it's got your quest marks and all that, but not in an intrusive sort. You know, it's got fast travel, but once again not in an intrusive sort of way. You know, you can you basically. It handles fast travel in a similar way to Elder Scrolls, sort of. You know, you look at your map, you pick the place you want to go, and you go there. But it's more closer to Morrowind, where you know within Morrowind where you can only jump to certain places using certain like with the Silt Strider or the boats or whatever. In Kingdom Come Deliverance, you pick you pick where you want to jump to by you select a little signpost on the map. Say like to the city of Rete, you pick a little signpost and it'll run to it on the map. You let your guy walk across the map like this. But you can get interrupted by like bandits or random passerbys or whatever. Like a travelling minstrel might stop you and say, "Hey, do you wanna listen to a song?" Or a bandit will stop you and say, "Give me all your gold," or whatever. You have to deal with it, you know. It's got that kind of dice roll aspect to it as well, because I mean it's not guaranteed that you're going to run into somebody, and you can chance an escape from it. Then there's all sorts of dungeon types. It's sort of got you can go finding treasure. Not in like obviously it's not in these overarching dungeons where it's kind of like filled with monsters sort of thing. You've got like you'll get a map and it'll say, I don't know, there'll be a little X on the map. It's supposed to represent somebody's drawn this hand by hand. So have a lot. Yeah, it has a somewhat of a kind of loot system for one of a better term. Like you'll find a chest with some gold in it, or groschen as they call it in the game, which is the money of the Kingdom of Bohemia of the time, because it's set in 1403, I think, in Bohemia, which is modern day Czech Republic. During the time of it starts off during the time of the like this civil war almost between King Wenceslas, I think it was called, and his brother King Sigismund, or half brother. But I believe it's also at this time when they had the Hussite rebellions. What year? 1403, I think. So you've got, I mean, it's like it's got all the kind of stuff you expect from a 1400s sort of thing. It's got knights, you've got castles, you've got priests, you've got churches, you've got people just like doing like ordinary work kind of stuff. You've got mines, you've got, but the focus is more on like questing for want of a better term. You know, like you'll go into a town and a guy will say, "Oh, there's all these refugees from the war that are here, and they're robbing everyone. You know, you need to deal with it because they're your people from your village, so you'll go and help them out and all this kind of nonsense."
Nice.
It's like you'll come across, there's bandits that'll be like hiding in little camps and hereabouts. There's caves you can go searching in, mines you can go searching in. There's obviously castles and towns and all that kind of jazz.
That's it.
What else is there? It's like the lockpick system. It's kind of unique to itself, sort of thing. It's kind of similar to, like, it's like a cross between Oblivion's and this, sort of. I mean, that's when you see it, you're gonna think, what the hell are you talking about? Because it sounds like that. Because like in this, you know, you get the lock and it comes up and it's like a circle thing. But in Kingdom Come Deliverance, kind of, you just put you move this, you hold your cursor on a spot as the thing turns. It's wobbling about while you're doing it, and it was nigh on impossible when it first came out. They've apparently tweaked it so it's on consoles. On PC, it was running on it, but on consoles you have to move the cursor with your analog stick, while also turning the lock with your other analog stick, which is harder than it sounds. I couldn't do it. I thought I was a dab hand with RPGs, but no, it broke me. So I waited until they fixed that. The other thing that a lot of people had a problem with it was that the system, the saving system, it's not just save anywhere you like. Well, you can save wherever you want, but you've got a certain amount of saves. Yeah, gameplay is pretty good. It's like the combat is much more realistic, you know. It's not just hammer the button and kill the bad guy, like which is unfortunately kind of the Elder Scrolls approach. It's kind of what should I call it? A directional system. You know, you want to swing at them like that. You move it so that the thing's pointing like that. You know. Kind of need, if like they're holding the sword up to the right, you want to slap them from the left and that kind of thing. So it adds this kind of like a better term, this kind of like depth to the combat, which is somewhat missing from the Elder Scrolls series. It's one of the few things of the Elder Scrolls series where they could definitely do with. Well, not definitely. It's one of the things that it would be a nice addition for them to tweak. I'm going down there again. Well, having never fought in a real sword fight, I can't say how accurate it is, but apparently the developers, they went out and kind of like the lead developer himself, he went to like one of the recreations of like sparring and stuff. You know, put on full suit of armor and everything he did, and like, you know, so it's kind of their aim with the system was to make it as realistic as possible without kind of being what's the word? So it's playable, basically. So if in real life you could only swing 3 times before collapsing, you could probably swing about 40 times in game. I mean, that's not an example of something in game. That's just me trying to come up with an example, so kind of summarize it. How to word it. Oops. Didn't mean to delete that bit. Their aim was to make it as accurate as they possibly could without sacrificing fun. Yeah, we'll go with that description. I think that's the way they described it. Like I say, in real life, if you was to use a sword, from what I understand, swords after a battle, they get all bent out of shape, you know, and you'd have to fix it, you know. And in the game, they do actually have this actual what to call it, smithing sort of system where you have to actually use a grindstone to fix your sword. Well, I mean, you can pay a blacksmith to fix it if you want, if you don't want to do that sort of thing yourself. But you can go to a grindstone. You have to grind the sword yourself to fix it up, you know, to sharpen it back up. And so you have to push it against the wheel and spin the wheel, but you have to kind of angle the blade just right so it's kind of you're blunting the sword, and if it's sparking, you're sharpening it. You know? It kind of, like I say, it kind of adds this. It's a fun mini game to kind of sharpen your weapons, but they didn't have to add in, you know. But they wanted that kind of accuracy that, you know, like you would do. You would sharpen your sword on a grindstone after you'd used it. You wouldn't just like, oh yeah, fix it for me. If you could fix it yourself, you would do, because it'd be cheap. That's the other thing. You don't actually have to go on and be a knight if you want. It's like, you can go off and be an archer, you know, go poaching, or you can be a thief, you know, you can run around robbing every bugger, you know, you can pickpocket and all this kind of stuff. You can go be an alchemist and make potions all day, or you can. It's like you have to learn to read in the game, because obviously in 1400s you didn't just like go to school and learn to read and all that jazz. You kind of had to pay somebody to teach you to read, and generally if you were a peasant you didn't know how to read. You didn't need to read, really, you know. It was a nobility thing. And so if you want to read books in the game, which is an option, you have to go and get taught how to read. And they don't just like you don't just hand over gold and suddenly you can read as well. Actually, obviously you have to do lessons, and when you read a book the words are all jumbled up, and when you get your first lesson and words are less jumbled. And the better you get at reading, the less words are jumbled, and so you can understand more and more stuff. Which I thought was a good approach, because, like I say, if they'd have just made it so you pay the price and boom, you can read, you know, it'd have just been pointless. You might as well have just let it so you had reading skill from the start. Because, like I say, you do start out as a so you start, of course, being a peasant of the time, you know. You didn't read, you didn't have that skills. You didn't know what the letters were of the alphabet. You could speak the language, sure, but you couldn't read it. And so you kind of, like I said, if they didn't have this skill, or this need to learn to read in the game, it'd have kind of taken away from their idea of historical realism, you know, which was their kind of, that was what they were aiming for, was to try and be historically accurate as possible. I mean, obviously you can't be 100% because nobody's been around since 1403 and can't tell you if you're going wrong, you know. You have to rely on historical accounts and other such records, and sometimes they're faulty, sometimes they're not, sometimes they're incomplete, sometimes they're outright fabrications. So sometimes it's just straight guesswork. Obviously you can't say for certain it's 100%, but they've aimed as hard as possible for accuracy. Well, that's what they were saying anyway. Not being it's weird to imagine not knowing how to read. Yeah, it's kind of, it's not a wake up call. It's kind of one of those things that kind of makes you realise just how unique it is to modern times that you can read. I mean, it's not really that far back in history where it wasn't that necessary to know how to read, you know. Say early 1900s when it started really becoming a thing, with public education becoming more and more a demand of society sort of thing. So I'd say we're about then. I might be a bit off on numbers. 1400 was a sign of learnedness, and then you were either a monk or a noble, you know. And so, like I say, or it was certainly somebody who was useful. Because if you were in a village and you could read, everybody would expect you to be one to write letters for them, you know, or to read letters to them. or imperial proclamations, or noble proclamations, or what have you. You know? But yeah, I don't know. It's one of those skills that a lot of people take for granted, I guess. You know, that they don't realise just how few people in history actually did know how to read, really, in the grand scheme of things. Like another thing I liked with Kingdom Come Deliverance is they didn't try to whitewash history. You know, they didn't try to remove stuff, and they didn't try to like make it out to be damning either. They didn't say, "Oh, everything was bad," but you know, everything's evil and everybody's hated. No, no, no. They went with everybody is just like everybody is supposed to be. You know, looking out for themselves or caring for their friends or what have you. You know, or looking out for the family or just getting up to shenanigans like in modern times. So it's like an aspect that I found interesting that some developers wouldn't have done, is that there's characters of a Christian in the game. Obviously, I mean it's in a Christian kingdom in 1400s, so it's a bit surprising considering 99.9% of everybody in Bohemia of the time were Christians. So if they weren't, you have to raise an eyebrow and think how did they manage that. But they actually, you know, they greet each other with phrases of the time like, you know, God be with you and all that kind of stuff. And some developers had just kind of like brushed that out and pretended it wasn't there, just to appease sensibilities of modern times. You know, it's like, oh, it might upset this group or these might not like that. And they were like, look, this is a historical accuracy. You don't like it, you don't have to watch it. You know, you don't have to play it. This is what people said. This is how people acted. This is what people did. You know, not everybody was. It wasn't as evil as everybody made it out to be. Not everything was bad. In fact, most of the stuff that people make out as bad of the time isn't really as bad as they make it out to be. You know. Like, oh, it was all, you know, there was disease everywhere and everybody lived in filth. No, not really. Relatively speaking, I mean, I wouldn't want to base my hygiene on the time of the time, but you know, you were expected to wash yourself, and in game you actually have to wash your clothes because they get dirty over time, and people will react to it. You know, if your armor's all dirty and scuffed, your charisma score will lower. And so people certain people, like ordinary folk will say, it's just an ordinary guy, but nobility will kind of look at you funny and say, nah, he's not as worthy of our attention as he should be, or what have you. Or if you're very finely dressed, the peasant class will kind of like say, nah, he's too good for us. He thinks he's all noble and stuff, so they'll be a little more standoffish with you, or what have you. Is, you know, much more realistic at the time, but at the same time they're not, oh, it's a noble so they hate all the peasants, you know, and they represent this in game, you know. They weren't all moustache twirling villains, as Hollywood would have us believe. The hygiene, exactly. Like I say, in the game, you're kind of encouraged to wash regularly because it keeps your clothes clean. Your armor gets dirty, like I say, it gets damaged, it gets holes in it. Like it actually visibly gets holes and damaged. Like in Elder Scrolls, your armor gets damaged. You got your little armor rating, and it says 99 armor health, for want of a better term. And it gets damaged, and it goes down to 72. So you whip out your repair hammer and you fix it up, and there you go, it's fixed. But you can't tell. You look at your armor and it looks the same as always. But in Kingdom Come Deliverance, if your armor gets knackered, you'll get little holes in it, or big rends in it when you've been in a sword fight on it, or smudges or bloodstains. You know, it's like if you have bloodstains, people will be like, "Whoa, he's got bloodstains." It's kind of scary, and they'll kind of like give you a wide berth, or they'll be more wary of you. And some people will actually only give you jobs if you look particularly scary. You know, it's like, he doesn't look scary enough. You know, he looks too nice. He ain't tough enough for this job, and they'll refuse to give you a job. Which is kind of fitting. You know, if you see somebody looks all nice and kind of small and round, and they not look like they've ever fought in life, you're not going to send them off to go fight in a bandit camp. You know, like, I don't know, fella, you don't look like you're up for fighting bandits. I mean, it might surprise you, might be the greatest fighter you've ever known, but your first impression is this guy don't look like a fighter. But if he turns up and he's full on chainmail and he's got swords and he's got scars everywhere, like, this guy looks like he's been in a fight too. He'll do. And they actually react in that way as well. Like I say, certain characters will be with t-shirt and shorts or what have you. Well, not literally a t-shirt short, but if you just turn up in a tunic and some leggings, they're just going to go, nah, he ain't armoured up enough, he's just going to get killed. Some characters will just give you a quest outright because they don't care. Like, if he gets killed, who cares? Sucks to be in. Right, so that's this area done. Let's get to adventuring. Actually, before we do, there's something I like about the Fallout 3 pistol in the game, is that that's the base version of it, obviously, that we all know and love from Fallout 3. You can actually take that off and make it look like it's a big, thick Desert Eagle looking thing. Fortunately, it kind of lowers your range. Makes it lighter though, so I suppose it makes its hipfire accuracy better. That's interesting. Yeah, I very much like what they did with Kingdom Come Deliverance. It's got the right. They've put the right kind of effort in. You know, they've said we want to go with in depth, and they did in depth. You know, they didn't pretend. Oh, we're gonna go with this hardcore kind of approach. We're gonna make it difficult. You know, it's gonna be Dark Souls. They didn't say that. They just went, we're going to make a game, we're going to be as historically as accurate as possible, that it's, you know, challenging, you know, and they've succeeded, I feel. It's kind of refreshing change, if you will, where a developer says, oh, I'm going to do this, and then they actually develop it. I mean, the other thing as well is that, I mean, this was a Kickstarter game, you know, and they only got, I think, what is it, 2 million, I think they got. And this is a game that looks like Bethesda could have made it, or insert big name company here, and there's only like 50, I think, at most, people working at Warhorse Studios. It's the first game they've made on as a team, and it's as large as an Elder Scrolls, and they had a budget about a slice of the Elder Scrolls, you know, like Elder Scrolls, I don't know, we'll say it as. Let's say the Elder Scrolls' budget is 50 million, you know, that's 1/25 of it, you know, I mean, it might be more for an Elder Scrolls game, I don't know how much Skyrim cost to make, or Oblivion, or what have you. It wasn't cheap to make them, and like I said, they made Kingdom Come Deliverance on a shoestring budget, you know. It's like, when it came out, there was some jank to the game when it came out, there was quite a few quest glitches, but I mean, that's kind of part and parcel of open world RPGs, you know, you kind of expect stuff to be broken or not work or what have you. So, I mean, they've put a lot of effort into patching it as well, things have been tweaked, they changed the save system because people were like, you know, you can't save anywhere. You can, but you have to have these, what they call savior schnapps, it's a drink, you have to drink it to save. You can only, obviously, you have to get these items to do it, but they're kind of expensive. I think one costs something like 50 groschen, which sounds like nothing. Is it 50 or 250? I can't remember. It's a fortune for a. Good lord. Just shot me. Some sort of filthy degeneracy. How dare it? Yeah, I very much like Kingdom Come Deliverance. It's got that it's hardcore without kind of being pretentious. That's kind of the problem I see with the Dark Souls series. It's hardcore, it's difficult. It's like, yeah, sure, it's difficult, but I don't know. A lot of it's. Uh oh, the game's crashed.